Welcome. Christian Men Unscripted, we're back. No guest this week. We have Seth back, though.
He's like a guest nowadays.
Yeah. Wow.
Haven't seen him for a couple weeks.
I'm Alan Underwood. I'm Seth Lozano's back, and I'm here with John Harney as well.
Hey.
Well, we had guests the last, 3 or 4 weeks, so that was good. Nobody else wants to come on anymore after that.
Yeah,
though.
we burn all the bridges.
We
we have some people in the wings, and I'm kind of excited for it in the future. But I think it's good for us to get back with each other.
Yeah. I think we needed to do that. So we were talking about what we're going to talk about before. That sounded weird. What are we going to talk about before the podcast? I have no idea, so I'm going to let you go with that, John.
John's the one who comes with all the ideas right before we get on.
What are we going to talk about? It's unscripted. This is go.
Yeah.
I can tell you the world's falling apart. I was just watching the news. I'm like, I got to turn this off.
Yeah, the world is falling apart. Wow. Oh, shocker. You mean there's going to be wars and rumors of wars until Christ's return?
Yeah.
I'm 100% sure that's been prophesied for over 1,000 years or more, man, but at least in the last several thousand anyway.
On that thought, though, before you get going, it's funny that like I see people post, I'm like, oh my God, what's going on? The world's falling apart. I'm like, I can always remember it. Like when I was in high school, there was a war, the Gulf War, war in the Middle East then.
Cold War,
and then you think about World War I, World War II, and I would imagine what people thought back then. It's probably the same thing we think now.
Especially World War II.
Oh yeah,
think about it.
With Germany,
Nuclear bombs, every generation
nuclear bombs,
right? Yeah, that's what I always tell people. Like they're like, "Oh, it must be the end of the world." And I'm like, "Well, every generation is meant to feel like it's the end of the world, so that they actually live in the reality of the kingdom of God." So that's what we are supposed to. We are supposed to think or feel that way, so that we live more radically or more devoted to our God and King. So every generation has that.
Yes. That's absolutely true because it's the birth pangs isn't. I think the word is pangs. I always thought like birth pains, like PAIN, but it's
pangs.
What does even that mean, dude?
I don't know.
So, but anyway, birth pangs of the coming of Christ, and every generation has. I love that thought, Seth. Thank you. I never thought of it that way, but all it does is prove the prophecies of those things that you guys. This world is an unstable place since the fall, and there will be all these wars, all these conflicts. Individuals will consistently respond in evil ways. By their very nature, they have a sin nature, and if they don't have Christ, then holy cow, then we got a whole nother issue, right? And then you just have evil and the enemy and all that stuff. I love the nature of our podcast because that's what we're joking about is we literally were seconds away from turning the microphone on. Seth prayed over it. Thank you very much for praying. We pray that we would articulate something.
Right.
And I will share this. Because I wrote something down.
I also don't think our cameras are recording.
Really?
I don't know.
Oh, are they
They've been having problems.
Well, I hope that they do.
We'll see.
If not, we'll put our picture up and they can listen to us on
it's
YouTube.
fine. Probably be better.
I know we're audio recording.
People are tired of the way we look. Oh, do you need to
we don't get that many followers on YouTube.
Do you need to mess with it while I'm talking and see, and then all of a sudden we'll just be late? Well,
no. We're going to go, and if we don't have video, we don't have video.
Okay, that's fine.
Sounds good.
Well, hey, listen. So I was sort of mentioning a few things, that it has been the most unusual week in ministry that I've had ever. Ups and downs, extremes on both, like amazing, what do you call that, expectation. You can see this fun expectation that God is on the move. And there's also massive spiritual attack, both in my home, including my wife's health and things like that, which then affects your attitude, your mood. And all of these things kind of culminating, I say 1 or 2 things are happening that are really cool. Spiritual warfare for sure, and that we must be on the edge of something bigger than ourselves, which is the truth for any believer who really does try to follow Jesus and say, I want to be your hands and feet. And so on that note, it got me to thinking, and I just want to get your perspective on this, you guys. What I ended up writing down was I was going to say like a church is a lot like a marriage. We've got issues. Every church usually has some kind of little issues, right? If they're not in the storm, they're coming out of the storm, they're going to go back into a storm kind of stuff, which is the same in life, the same in marriage. But let's just talk church and marriage because they're kind of the same. I opened, before we started talking, I butchered a Tony Evans quote, which was, do you guys know a better way of putting what I said? I can't remember it, Where he says,
I wasn't even paying attention.
I know.
Yeah.
You say you're a Christian. You say you're a Christian, and but you don't need to go to church. And that's true.
Yeah, why do you need to go to church? I mean, if I believe in God, I don't need to go to church. I can just have my relationship with Him. So I've had that question. I've asked that question on the podcast. So what was the answer now, Tony?
And it was great. It was a wonderful quote. He said, and you're right. You do not need to attend church to believe in Jesus. Faith alone in Christ alone. He says, but it's the same to say you're married. You get married to a beautiful wife, and but then you just never go home.
That sounds okay too.
It's going to damage.
I'm just kidding.
Hey, that's kind of what.
Sorry, Kim. I'm just joking.
That's why I'm going to use that as a transition.
Right.
Because that's the truth, right? The
Right.
relationship is going to suffer. So what he says, you're never going to get to know who you're married to in Christ. You're never
Right.
going to have intimacy and all these things. Of course, that just makes sense logically.
Yep.
But isn't that interesting how your spouse, now let's talk about a spouse, how your spouse feels, whether it's medical, depression, frustration,
Anger.
it really does affect you also
Yes.
if you have real intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
How you
Stresses
guys,
me out.
Have you guys been seeing that? I just like to talk about that kind of stuff because it's just a reality.
Yeah, I got, my wife, she's a second grade school teacher. She'll tell you that she comes home angry half the time with these kids.
Enough said, exactly.
And like, I'm like, hey, can't you just come home happy? They just never quiet and they're out of control sometimes. And I'm like, oh, geez, stress me out. But she's working on it. She's doing better. But dealing with, 20 second graders, you're always going to have some that are just crazy. And, when she comes home in a bad mood and she's angry and her bottom lip is sticking out, when she's mad, her bottom lip sticks out. It's kind of cute. But I'm like, oop, she's in a bad mood.
Oh.
Yeah, and it stresses me out and it gives me anxiety as well.
It puts you on notice. You're like, okay.
Yeah. Better make dinner.
Yeah. I want to make her feel better. Yeah. I get that for sure. Yeah, no, I feel the same way. There's certainly days when my wife feels more stressed than others for work and she's, big deadlines coming up and just feeling that weight. And so to try to be a consistent and helpful husband is hard because there's times where I want to just be like, yeah, you go, you have the right to feel that way, but other times where I'm like, well, maybe we can push through this a little bit more. And so I want to be supportive as well as give my wife things that she might need in that time. And sometimes I give her things that she doesn't need. Like, yeah, you need to push through. It's like, I want you to just be in my feelings for a minute. It's like, okay, how long? Just 1 minute? Okay. All right. I've been here. And then, so there's definitely times where I'm like, okay, how do I bridge the gap? How do I help this situation or help, minister to my wife in this time where she might be in need? And other times it's like, okay, she's frustrated because the counter isn't clean. We've had this discussion before where for her, she can't do rest if the counter or the table aren't clean. And so I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to put things away. And
that would make me mad too, though.
Yeah, that would definitely make Alan mad.
Yeah, Alan, I can't. I would if I lived with you, Alan. You would hate me.
Ditto.
No, but it's true, and we've talked about this several times actually as a topic on this podcast. But it's real because when you're in relationship, it is amazing that God created a man and a woman to complete each other. We have kind of these logical guys are usually, how do I fix this immediately and be done with the problem? And women are a little more emotional, a little more of a time investment, that kind of thing.
Yeah, you're like, hey, you do this, and do this. I don't want you to tell me what to do. Just listen.
Yeah.
Like, I can't just listen.
But then
it drives me crazy. We can fix it right here, right now.
Yeah, I already heard enough.
If you would just listen to me,
I got it.
You'd be out of this.
Yeah, I promise you, just do what I tell you. Just forget those kids and just don't worry about it.
That reminds me of a little clip I saw. It was like a comedy clip where this woman has a nail in her head. She's just she's like, oh man, like I just have this pain in my head, and he's like, well, there's a nail in your head. I don't want you to fix my problems. Yeah. She's like, there's all these holes in my sweaters now. Well, I think it might be, and she just keeps getting mad at him for pointing out the fact that there's a nail in her head. And
I saw that video, dude. It is so funny, but it's so true, right? It really is. And I mean, it's like here's the issue though that I was kind of getting at even right before we turned this microphone on, when I was sort of saying potentially the same issues as a church. Mm-hmm. But let's just talk about marriage for right now. Same topic though, right? Is you really do have to give of yourself. You kind of have to die to yourself. Mm-hmm. And kind of sit back and realize, like, she doesn't want me to just tell her the nail is in her head. I just got to kind of work through this. But that actually can get kind of frustrating, guys. Yeah. I'm just saying, it can kind of bring you down. It's hard to maintain your own positive outlook when you're like the lifeguard in the pool. They say for the lifeguard in the pool, don't save the person from the front, save them from the back. Come from behind. You're better off to put them in like a half Nelson or a full Nelson and drag them out of the pool than to like just let them grab all over you. They're just going to bring you to the bottom.
Yeah, take it down.
I'm not saying our ladies bring us to the bottom. Don't misinterpret what I just said, but I'm just saying sometimes maybe we just need to come from behind and give them a little hug.
Yeah.
Because when we come front on, they might just drag us down, and every day we want to solve the problem, so we just go headlong into it. Next thing you know, we're all kind of down in the dumps a little. I don't know if that happens to you guys.
Right.
That ever happen to you guys?
No, yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I mean, yeah, for sure. I mean, you gotta come at it from a different angle. Is helpful. For like I always heard that. Well, not always, but when my wife and I were first doing like getting married and having our counseling, we listened to this guy named Emerson Egrich, who has this thing called the crazy cycle. That's what he calls it. He says, women feel if women don't feel loved, they react without respect. And when men don't feel respected, they react without love. And so there's that cycle where there's nobody is willing to act the opposite way.
Yep.
And
That's me.
yeah.
They getting mad last week, and they're like, "What's wrong with that?" I'm like, "Nobody cares about me around here. I do everything." We talk about it. And they're like, "What?" I'm like, "I don't know. Just leave me alone. I'm gonna go watch TV."
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
It's mostly because when the Browns lose, I'm very angry about things, and they always
well.
lose. Shut
yeah.
it.
Well, you should choose a different team.
Decades.
Yeah.
But the other thing that Emerson Egrich says is that women have pink earphones and men have blue earphones, and women have pink microphones and blue microphones for guys. And he said sometimes let's say that your wife is saying, "I want to lose some weight," and so for you you're like, "Oh, okay, I'm gonna get her a diet book or get her a subscription or something," and so. She hears, you hear from your blue, like, "Yeah, I'd like someone to help me out here," and she's like, "I just wanted you to be in this space with me."
That's like buying her a vacuum.
Yeah, right.
Ladies love that.
Yeah.
I like vacuums, though. If
Yes,
you bought
you
me a
do.
vacuum, I'd be happy.
Yeah, I'll keep that in mind for your birthday.
A good vacuum, not some cheap
Oh,
one.
yeah.
I'm gonna probably go to Goodwill and buy you
Ooh.
a vacuum.
Well, you can find a good one there, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. I'll see what I can do. $10. But the idea is that we hear things differently and we say things differently, and we do for men. One of the most loving things we can do is try to put in the effort to be able to speak the language our wife wants to speak.
That's an interesting point. I love languages, and I've never, like foreign languages, I love to learn
Yeah.
them. Never thought about trying to learn the foreign language of a lady.
Is in their book, Love Languages?
Yeah, there is.
My wife was talking about it.
Mine too. She's
Yeah.
talked about it before.
And I was watching I watch a show on
Seth probably could quote the love language
the
stuff.
one they were talking about love languages, and they go, and if your love language is gifts, then you're just a scumbag. I'm like, that's my love language. I love gifts.
They said, all right, so you're just a scumbag.
I'm a scumbag.
Just a scumbag.
Dude.
But I mean sentimental gifts. Like, what I like. If you were to buy
Yeah.
me tickets to see the World Series when the Indians or Guardians, whatever they're called, I'd be like, that is deep. They do love me.
Yeah.
Instead they buy me like, underwear. I'm like, what the heck?
Yeah.
I hate getting underwear and socks.
Well, I'll get
It's the
that for you.
worst.
You give me a $10 vacuum, I'll buy you some underwear.
Yep. You're getting
That's
nice.
weird. Never mind. Disregard it.
Just make sure it's a thong, please.
Yeah,
I
it'll
need
be
some
real
more of
nice. Well, you were talking about whatever that scale or whatever, the cycle.
Oh, yeah, the crazy cycle?
Crazy
Yeah.
cycle. Okay, full disclosure, my head goes to that. Have you ever seen the scale of like hot chicks or whatever? Like the hotter a chick is, the crazier she is.
Oh yeah, I saw
The
that.
like more normal she is, the less attractive she is. There's a whole scale, kind of what are you willing to risk? You know what I mean? I had that conversation. Seriously, my wife and I did just a few weeks ago, and I don't remember who we were talking about, but someone being like an attractive female, like a friend of ours who's pretty friend or whatever. She's probably crazy because she's pretty or whatever. But then we're driving, and my wife is like, "Oh, see, you don't have to worry about that." Kind of like downplaying her attractiveness, right?
Oh, I
Yeah.
thought she was talking about you.
No, for her, because it's all about the girl thing.
Oh, okay.
But she's
Well,
like, so you don't have to worry about that. I was like, oh my God, are you kidding me? Like,
Yeah.
You're the
really?
craziest person
You're
I ever did.
You're crazy.
You are,
You
like,
are crazy.
Yeah, 100% crazy. Baby, you know I love you.
Yeah.
Baby, I'm sorry. I love you. But my wife's crazy. So, but she seems normal to everybody else. But,
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
but it's because
To
she's
me.
so pretty, dude, and we just have to go
Right.
with that. Sometimes that's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. So now every
hilarious.
time I see her, I'm like, this lady's crazy.
Yeah, you just
Okay.
Well, she's also Hispanic.
She's so sweet. When we
she's-
leave, I'm gonna be like, she's crazy. When we
Yeah.
leave, she's going off on John.
Just be careful, dude. She's Hispanic, and no offense to
I've
all our
known you
Hispanic
for
listeners, dude, but they're, you got a little
25
hotness.
years. I've never seen her act crazy.
Yeah, she's just a little spice. She's got a little spice.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
by
like-
the way, just me talking about this, it's going to set her off. I'm in danger.
Yeah, you're not allowed to be on the
You guys,
podcast
I'm in danger.
Do you
anymore.
need any assistance?
Blink,
Yeah.
blink twice. I'm like blinking all
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah.
I'm in danger now, guys.
You can sleep on my couch. if you want.
Not allowed on the podcast anymore.
No,
Bad influence we are.
She's good. She's
Yeah.
a nice balance, if I'm really being honest.
Yeah.
Okay, so when we start talking about marriage and kind of how that kind of
Yours isn't meant to last apparently now.
It's also, hey, Shocker, guys! I got to make an announcement. No. So people have asked my wife and I, because we're coming up on 30 years.
Mm-hmm.
Seth, I know you guys have been married for a while. You're a little younger than us, not by a lot, but a little.
Coming up on 10 years. Yeah.
And Alan is at 31 years.
I'll be 33 in April.
33 years coming up. So
You don't look 33.
Oh, I wish I was 33. I'd be married 33 years.
You're exactly right.
Yeah.
And isn't that funny? I was talking to some
I
lady
know, I
at the
look
gym.
30.
I'm talking to some girl at the gym the other day, and she was asking, tell me about her husband, and they're wanting to go to Disneyland, and they're trying to get pregnant, etc. And I was like, oh, man, that's great. How old are you anyway? And she was like, I just turned 30, so, I want to get pregnant very soon. And in the conversation,
It's a
it
weird
dawned on me-
conversation to have at the gym.
It is, but it's somebody I talk to, and I talk to these people
You
about
talk
it.
to every time I call him. I'm at the gym. What are you doing? Just talking.
Just talking. That's all I
I
do.
never do anything at the gym.
But it felt weird because she's talking about this like I'm 30, so we're got to be, kind of cautious about IVF and all the, I want to make sure we have kids soon because I'm 30. And I'm like, we're talking about stuff that girl, I was married when you were born. You know what I mean? It dawned on me, I guess.
Yeah.
I felt like we were contemporaries in the conversation until I was put in perspective on how
Yeah.
old I am versus how old this person is. And I was like, I did that.
You're like, oh, no.
Because she was asking, how do we get pregnant and stuff.
You know what I like is when I see people.
I was like, well, didn't your mom and dad talk to you about this?
How do I get pregnant?
How does it
Well,
work?
this is a conversation I can't have because my wife is crazy, and I don't want her to know I'm talking
I was
about
like, my
it.
wife's right here in the gym. I can't even get into this right now.
But there's some birds and there's some bees, and something happens there.
You didn't have to take mandatory health class? Your parents didn't sit down with you on this one?
Different time, different era, buddy.
I'm just saying.
How do we do that? Okay, all right.
I
Interesting.
mean, your TikToks show nonstop pornography and everything else, and you
Bro.
don't know. I know. Believe me, we had that conversation.
We had that conversation.
Yeah.
No, they're struggling, her and her husband, and so
Okay.
she was asking
So
about
she's-
IVF and those things. But anyway,
Okay.
dude.
So, because
Can you-
I forgot
did she
you're an
ask? Can you
expert,
talk to my husband about this, please?
I was like, I'm like, hey, come over here, fella. Let me see. Let's see what you got. Let's go in the bathroom. Let's see what we're working with.
Oh
dude.
man! You know what I like?
Let me show you some moves.
When I meet somebody and they tell me their age and they're like my age or older and they look way worse than I do, I'm like, yes, thank you. I'll never tell them that. I'm like, babe,
Yeah.
bro, you look like you're 70.
You say, you look young.
Yeah, dude, you
You
look
look
good.
You know what
Yeah,
sucks
but-
about you saying that? How many times have I told you I'll be at the gym talking, and I'll have a guy. This is hand to God true story. Sweet guy. Talk to him all the time, and then one day he's like, "Yeah, you know how it is for guys our age," and I was like, "Yeah."
How
And-
old are you?
And somehow then the follow up, of course, I didn't immediately ask, but dude's like 66 years old, bro. He was like 66. I'm like, dude's our age.
Did I?
That's hard living, man. I'm so sorry,
you-
babe. I love you. I'm sorry you're married to a dude that looks 66 at 50.
You know Nate, right? Nate was on our podcast,
Yeah, of course.
football coach. He's 26 years old. And he's in our small group, our couples group. And he comes over and I'm like, bro, if you want to go to a younger group or whatever, I told you this. He goes, well, no, I like learning from old people. I was like, well, you're absolutely leaving the group now. You
Dude.
son of a gun.
That's actually why we keep you around, Seth. Is like
Oh,
you
yeah?
gotta, when we have guests and stuff, they're like, "Oh, okay, so it's not all just old dudes."
Okay.
We're like, yeah, even though Seth didn't come the last time we had JD Alexander on, thank you JD for showing.
Yep.
But
I'm sorry, guys.
yeah, it's fine. Okay,
Yeah.
let me get back to this. You're married 33 years. You married 10 years. What advice? This is not a trick question. I'll share what I've always shared with people because it really does go into what I believe also goes into how do you contribute to your church as well. But when someone asks you, for instance, I'm going to start with you, Seth. Someone asks you, do you have like a secret to your marriage? Like, how do you guys stay together? Someone asks you this question. This is like, that's the $1 million question, by the way, that's asked. But how do you respond? Can you respond in a quick way?
No, I usually say, hey, why don't you grab a chair and let's get some coffee, 3-4 hours, and then you'll finally understand what it takes. But no, I always whenever I do premarital counseling and stuff, and one of the things that I always come back to is, and I think we probably talked about on the show on our show, is that we need to make sure that we're not attacking a problem, like attacking each other. We're attacking a problem. We're trying to get through this problem. It's not her fault. It's not my fault. You know, there's things that we need to take ownership for, but there's a problem that we need to attack or to get rid of, and we're holding our hands together to attack this problem. The other thing I tell guys is, look, you guys, we get into marriage, thinking, man, I can't wait to have, daily, sex with my wife, and we have these things, but we need to serve our
Look,
wives.
Alan was like, I know he wanted to interrupt you and jump in because he was like, oh, okay.
Nope.
Hey, Not wrong. Keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Maybe you didn't. Maybe Alan.
But 33 years later, I'll tell you. No, I'm not going to tell you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you think you get in there and
No,
you think
hey,
you have
still
these
Yeah.
ideas about what marriage
Sure.
might be, and it's like, oh, okay, she's gonna be attracted to me all the time, and it's like, oh, she's not always attracted to me. She's not, there's not always this mood that I assumed was going to be there. But what I say is that for us as guys, we need to make sure that we're always serving our spouses, as the Bible says, as Ephesians 5:25 says, for men, we must always lay down our lives for our wives.
Yeah.
They are, to submit to us, yes, but that's our goal, is to lay down our lives.
Hey, babe, that's right. You
You're
heard
right,
that.
Kim,
Stop right there. Don't listen to anything else Seth says. But we need to lay down our lives like Christ laid down his life. And so that takes a lot of sacrifice. And so I need to make sure that I'm sacrificing more for my wife than I want her to sacrifice for me.
Oh, I love it, man. And I know that you would agree that when we say lay down our life, it's not only a willingness to literally die like Christ did, but he left the comfort of the kingdom to walk on this earth. In other words, he sacrificed his life like lifestyle.
Right,
and not
exactly.
living in a wonderful life. An absolutely self-sacrificial, even lifestyle. It's not just, of course, we'd kill for our wives, die for our wives. Yeah. I know these guys sitting here, and I know most guys listening, but it's that whole, it's everything.
Yeah.
It's everything. What about you? Okay, now, same question to Alan. Someone says 33 years. By the way, thank you. Seth, let me share something. I've been married almost 30 years. And I really do, when I ask you questions like that, I really will gain a little bit more insight, a little more depth to some basic thoughts that I have. See, I have basic thoughts. You give me a little more depth.
It's a good thing you asked him first then, because I'm not going to give you any depth.
Well, that's why.
I have been married 33 years, and we go to these groups, and they're like, hey, dude, what's the secret? I'm like, I don't know. I've just been married 33 years. We just get along. That's it. Yeah. I mean, I will tell you that after watching my parents get divorced and my mom be divorced 3 or 4 times, and my dad, he ended up having a good marriage with his second wife for a long time, but it was nothing I saw because I didn't live with him. I know they got along, but I did not want I wanted to be married. I wanted to stay married. I don't know if I was the best husband for the beginning of that. I feel like I'm better now, but I love my wife. I like being with her. I tell her I love her every day, and we just get along. And I make sure she knows that. That's it. I don't have any advice as far as that is. We just get along.
You know what's funny though, bro? You shared the advice by what you said, and you live the advice by what you do. Right. That whole genuine faith really does result in genuine action. You can't hide it.
Right.
And so your genuine action. You just said something. I'll share real fast because what you said is what I sort of would say. People ask me that, 30 years, how do you... Kind of a combination of what both of you guys said, but I always just dropped it down to 2 words, daily decision. And because that advice was given to me a long time ago, you wake up every day and decide to be in love with your wife. You wake up every day and decide to make her a priority. Decide that that's who you're in love with. Decide that you're attracted to her.
Right. Because
you really can... decide to do that. It's actually a daily decision. So I say it's kind of a series of daily decisions. By the way, it doesn't mean you do it every day.
Yeah.
Bro, you're fooling yourself if you think that you can pull that off. If you can, oh my God, be blessed, right? But at least if you spend a few days in either frustration or you're kind of, sometimes we kind of go off into a different place. You get back to that though, consistently. So you really gave it even more depth that it's hey, decide that there's it's the problem, not the person. We're dealing with an issue. We're dealing with spiritual warfare. You've shared that before. And Alan, you just said it. I tell her I love her every day. That's part of that decision because you're saying what you're thinking. That's a daily decision.
Yeah. What I got from there is you really, I was like, yeah, that's a great point. Is you just was like, I'm committed. And that's a really, really, I think that's a really powerful thing for us to be like, I'm committed to this.
That's how I was trying to say it. Thank you.
All right.
See, you do it. You demonstrate it.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure. And it's funny because if there's a listener out there, think about this. We're pretty blessed. It's not that my wife and I have not been on some crazy roller coaster rides together. We have. Tragedy, you name it. But there are listeners out there who maybe are even in a place, and I do these I'm part of prayer groups for major church organizations where I get these huge lists that take a huge amount of time to just go through these prayer requests. I'm surprised at how many of them are pray for our marriage, 25, 30-year marriage. My husband is just indifferent or finally moved out, or my wife she just doesn't love me anymore and says there's no love here and all these things. And so I know for a fact a lot of people have this in their marriages. It's a seasonal thing. And so how do you convince somebody hey, guys, it's got to start with you. Like, what do you say to somebody like?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's funny you say that because I've heard of those stories where people are like, "I'm just leaving." You know, it's like it's when I say work, it's not work. You have to work at it. You have to keep the love there. You have to work at it. Like, I could see like guys our age in our 50s, not 60s, having those so-called midlife crises.
Yeah.
You're like, "Oh, I'm married so long. I want to go out and be on my own." But then, like, after my wife and family are gone for like a day or something, I don't see them. I'm like, "Oh, I miss them. I want to."
Yeah.
I don't have anybody here, you know. So, but it sounds bad to say you have to work at it, but you have to put work into it. You know, I had to keep that love, to keep that thing. Because if you ignore each other and you just go, if I just go out and go to the gym, go to sporting events, go to a bar, I know guys that go to the bar and drink and go out to strip clubs of married men and doing weird things. I'm like, why would you ever do that? I love sitting at home at night and just watching the news or TV with my wife.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
You know, even if like we don't say a word for 5 minutes, she's there.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it sounds weird to say you have to work at it, but you have to put the work into it. To keep that. So I don't know. That's just my opinion. And I don't like the word work because it doesn't seem like work to me.
Mm-hmm.
But I know commitment is a better word. So I think that's it myself. And I don't think I was always there. I think I could have gone the other way.
Mm-hmm.
Think about this, because like you were an athlete, both of you guys were. We've had all these
Still am, John.
I get it. Yeah, likewise. You know, hey, think about this. We have all of these athletes who have been on, these amazing guests, and Joey Cunha and all these guys who have been on, and Rick Strauss are working with them, right? Think of these guys. They have to put in work to be good at what they do, right? And I know we've had the identity conversations about that, but when you're married, how much more work should you put into your relationship? So I don't think it's a bad word, bro, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because you're trying to make something great out of something that's good.
Yeah.
Or something that you have. Make it even better. I think that's a pretty good thing.
Yeah.
So
I like it.
I don't know if you guys have thoughts, but
I agree with you. I like that. Makes me feel better about saying work.
Yeah.
Because I feel like I got to put in work with my kids. I got to put in work, you know, for them to be who they are. And I told you that yesterday. I got mad at my son because he's helpless at times as 21-year-old living at home. He's like mad because we put the syrup in the refrigerator. He's like, it just messes up my waffles. I'm like, you can put the syrup in the microwave for 10 seconds and it's not cold anymore. And so then I get mad and I do it. He's like, it's okay. I'm like, no, I'm doing this, kid. Yeah. I'm like, here's your syrup. Now, is it better? It's like, yeah, whatever. Yeah. Well, okay. You're always complaining about dishes in the sink, Dad. I'm like, shut up, kid.
Yeah, but
you're lucky to be alive, man.
Wash the dishes. I mean, come on, dude.
Well, I don't know if the dishes in the dishwasher are clean or not. My wife has a sign that says clean or dirty that she puts on there. If it says clean, you know what you can do? You can unload it.
There are signs of indication, bro. Looks good, smells good. Go ahead, Seth. I'm sorry.
You can see the food on the dishes, AJ.
Yeah.
I hope he don't listen to the podcast. It's like that.
No, I'm gonna make him. That's real life, though. You know, like there's this kids kind of they don't realize the work that it takes to take care of something until they have their own place. Then they're like, "I'm sorry, Dad. I'm sorry about."
Well, you hope they say I'm sorry.
Well, they don't say. Maybe they probably won't say it, especially if sons or But.
You've seen those videos on whatever TikTok, Instagram. When my kids get their house, parents are coming in, throwing their shoes everywhere, leaving dishes everywhere.
I love those videos because I cannot wait to do that, dude. For sure.
Yeah.
Well, to kind of go off what you were saying, Alan, is that. Work you do have to put effort into it. You have to put work into something as an athlete or any sort of relationship. You have to put work in to be able to be in closer with someone. I mean, if I don't talk to my wife, we said this earlier, if I don't talk to my wife, then I'm not going to be close with her. I'm just going to assume some things about things. So I have to put some effort in. Maybe I'm not used to talking to my wife. Maybe I'm not used to, talking the same language as her. And so I got to be like, okay, so what would help you feel loved in this way? I don't know how to talk to you right now. I would love to know, like, what was the best, what are good questions and stuff?
Is just nod your head and go, huh? Uh-huh. Yep. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But if they ever ask you what they said, then you're screwed.
All right. So I don't know if that's a secret.
I'm sorry about that. Oh, that sucks. I'm sorry.
But there's some things that are.
I listen.
Yeah. No, you listen. Yeah, it's good. But like sometimes, like my wife the other day said to me, "I would love if you bought me some flowers." And you know what I did with that? Nothing.
You didn't.
And I should have, and so that's what I'm probably gonna leave here today and grab some flowers, and
Good idea.
then
You better.
but that's something where it's like she told me what she wants me to say to her through her language, and it's easy enough to just take a moment and listen.
Yeah.
And better late than never, Seth. Preaching to myself here, but there's things, whether you're married for 30 years, 40 years, 20 years, 5 years, to take some notes of the things that your spouse says and just be like, okay, maybe I'll buy that for them. Or, they say, oh, I'd really love to go to a Browns game. I'd really love to go to Cleveland Guardians. I almost said Indians too, but
Yeah, I still think they're the Indians.
They're the Indians.
Yeah.
If they win a World Series, I'll call them Guardians.
All right, good. All right, but like you say those things off cuff. If you're paying attention to the language they're speaking, you should be able to do what they ask and to speak their language.
Yeah,
and that's the same way with our relationship with God, as we talked about. Paul says, "Work out your salvation with fear and trembling." There's that word "work" in there. Well, he also says it's through Christ alone, by faith. So no one can boast. But he also tells us to work it out. And our relationship with God, it's not something we earn. But as Dallas Willard said, God's not opposed to effort; He's opposed to earning. And so our relationship with God, our relationship with Him, is it requires work. I'm not going to get close to God by just not going to church. I'm not going to get close to God by not going to a small group or not reading the Bible. I'm deceiving myself if I'm not doing the works that He has said, as James points out, that we don't be just merely hearers of the word and not doers, because those who don't hear and do are deceiving themselves.
Yeah.
And so that's maybe bringing it back to our initial conversation, is we do need to put some work in to make sure that we are hearing what needs to be done, obeying God, but also hearing and wanting to genuinely love our spouses in that way.
Yeah. I love it. I got to go back real fast because it's interesting. Most Christians, is after John 3:16, for God so loved the world, but also most of us, faith alone in Christ alone Christians, like Ephesians 2:8 and 9, right? It's for by grace we've been saved through faith apart from works. You mentioned it, lest we boast. We don't boast over that. But the very next verse 10, is we've been set apart for these works. We're His workmanship, His masterpiece for works. But it's for those works. Your faith is based everything about who Jesus is and what He did for us. But once you've believed, once you've accepted Christ, you've entered into a covenant relationship by faith, all on Him. But now He says, okay, now we're in relationship. The work is now get to know me so that you can follow me. He says, my burden is light, my yoke is easy. Like, now follow me. Like, get in the Gospels, learn about who is Jesus and how was He. And so He says, pay attention to that stuff, because now that's how you're going to get to know me. Yeah. You're going to nurture the relationship. How about we use a better word? You could use like a softer sounding word than work. Yeah. Nurture the relationship. We play with words. You see what I'm saying? Yeah. But that's real. Correct. Same with a marriage. Nurture the relationship. Put work into it.
Right. Yeah. And that's, I do believe, like, when I was in middle school, end of elementary school, I had lots of girlfriends. What that meant.
Okay, buddy.
Oh, I did.
Excuse us.
Hey. Yeah, I'm sorry, guys.
Not bad, bro.
So I had lots of girlfriends. Now, what that meant was that I asked them.
Hey, from here on out is LK, dude. I'm done with Scotch tape. This is LK up in here, dude. Lady Killer.
Okay, that's it. All right. So what that meant was that me as an LK, what that meant is I asked them to be my girlfriend, and then I never talked to them again.
Oh, yeah.
And
especially in middle school,
you got the
school,
you do the little line there, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 across. Got 5
exactly. I got a girlfriend now. It's like, but I never talked to them. And my brother, I was like, yeah, I got a girlfriend. He's like, oh yeah. It's like, you're on a date? No. Like, how often do you talk to her? Never. It's like, you don't have a girlfriend. Like, you don't have a girlfriend. You just said something. Yeah. And that's kind of the reality, I think, for us as Christians, is we can say something, and we've talked about this before. Yeah. But if there is stuff that needs to happen, if I'm going to actually be in a relationship, I can say I'm in a relationship with God, but I ignore Him completely, then I'm not really in a relationship with God. And so, as we talked about, it is not about earning. I'm not going to earn God's relationship, but if I'm in relationship with Him, then I'm going to want to do the things that He's asked me to do, because I love Him and He loves me, and I do those works not to get more brownie points or to get more rewards or to be better than someone else, but in genuine relationship with Him, I would do the things that He says. So my view is that if you're in a relationship with God, if he is your Savior and he's your Lord, then that requires some effort on your part. Not for boasting, but for relationship purposes.
You know, you're saying this, and it's funny because, first of all, I'm walking out of Lowe's the other day, and a Boy Scout, I paid $20 for a bag of popcorn.
That's mostly air.
That's $20 for a bag of popcorn, dude. By the way, I had 2 giant ones. Didn't realize we had already double purchased the kettle corn from Costco.
Yeah.
The big giant bags from Costco, and then I bought a $20 little 4-ounce bag from a Boy Scout. Okay, here's what's funny. I'm going back to what you're talking about with relationship and stuff. He was the greatest salesman, dude. He straight strong-armed me for $20, no problem.
Yeah, kids would do that though, man.
Oh, this kid, above and beyond. Somebody should film this kid. He had every hilarious quip. He's this tiny little dude, and he ran his mouth so fast that he was like, "Step right over here. I know you're in a hurry, and I know you want to ignore me." He's literally, dude,
that's awesome.
like an 8-year-old. He's like,
and
I know we're in your face.
Places, man.
100. I told my wife, I was like, "Oh, that kid, or being mass, he's going to prison," because I'm like, this kid could run his mouth.
Bernie Madoff.
And he was like, "I'm telling you right now, you need to talk to me. This is a big deal, blah blah." And then he's like, "Which one of these popcorns are you going to buy today? This is a donation." I'm like, "Kid, what? I'm trying to get to my car. If I knew you were at this exit, I would have gone out a different one." So anyway, long story short, I'm like, "Okay, fine. I'm gonna buy a bag of popcorn. How much?" He's like, $15 for this, $20. I'm like, "What?" And then my wife, I was like, "Babe, I don't know which one." And he was like, "Good call, sir. Happy wife, happy life. Am I right?" And I'm like, "You're 8, bro. You're 8. Happy wife, happy life." Okay. The reason why is because he said that phrase, but you just said it. Happy wife, happy life. That is such a pukey kind of a thing to say typically. But actually, while Seth is talking, it really does make sense what it's summarized. And what it is, hey, I really want to put in the effort to make sure that she lives a peaceful, happy, joyful life because that does bring peace to the entire relationship.
Yeah.
And I guess to go on what you're saying about a relationship with God, you say you believe in Jesus, and you're the person. We all meet the guy. I know God. We got our own special thing. We don't go to church. I'll go to the mountains every once in a while. Me and God got our own thing. You hear that all the time. Mm-hmm. And it's like, dude, it's kind of like the same thing. Like where, how are you even getting to know who God is if you're never stepping foot in a church, if you're never spending time in prayer and in the Word of God? The Bible itself is how we know God because it is literally the inspired mind of Christ so that we can actually know what our God is thinking, know how to obey. We don't like that word obedience, and yet it's not a difficult thing. He says those who obey are called friends of God because we just want to be like him, his hands and feet. So as you get to know him, you have this happier life, and technically we're in that's what marriage is looking like, a covenant relationship between us and God. Yeah. And so when we really do try to say, like, God, how do I bring joy to you, not out of guilt or anything else or no condemnation, but maybe some conviction in our lifestyle, then all of a sudden you realize you actually have a happy life for contributing to that relationship as well. Not unlike a marriage is, I guess, what I'm getting at. You're talking, and my head went to this kid at this Boy Scout who's like the greatest salesman. But he literally said, happy wife, happy life. And I normally make fun of that saying, but because it is kind of dumb. Because it's so shallow. But if you really add some depth to it, you realize, wait, okay, there is some truth to that.
Yeah, and it's not that I'm just placating her, letting her walk all over and be like, all right, whatever she wants, I'm just going to do it.
Right.
That's not the kind of Christian marriage that we're talking about
Except for with me and you, babe. Okay, keep going. I'm sorry, baby. You know I love you. Okay, keep going.
Are you talking to me? Or
who are you talking? You're looking at him while you're talking.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know what's going
this
on.
Podcast,
I don't know if you guys know, I called my wife crazy earlier. I got some making up to do.
You better bring some flowers home next Tuesday.
Why don't you
just tell her
her name before you say that next time?
Just tell her there's no podcast.
What's in my drink?
Confused.
I'm going to tell her I got roofied in my drink. I don't know what Alan put in there. Okay, keep going. Sorry.
No, that's funny. But as Christian men, is that we want our wives to be happy, but not in the sense that we're just allowing things that shouldn't be happening just because we don't want to step on some toes, or there's eggshells. If I step on this eggshell, then I'm going to feel like I'm going to hear it. But there are some things that we need to kind of put our proverbial foot down and say, look, you're not following Jesus in this way.
Yeah. I said, dinner 5:05 p.m. on the dot.
Yeah,
is that we're not? No, is that
make it happen.
That's not what I'm.
Woman.
That's not what I'm saying.
That's not how you do it. No,
I'm not talking about that. Like,
do we call our wives women? Hey, woman.
Hey, woman.
I do. She likes it.
All right. So I guess I got to clarify this statement here. Is that there are things like
Seth is like, I'm sitting here dealing with idiots. See, we may have idiot listeners. We don't know for sure.
No. So
never call your wife woman.
So there are things that my wife wants done. And I don't agree with those things. And sometimes I'll say, hey, I don't think that needs to be done, at this point in time. But there are other times where I say, she's like, I need this to be clean. I'm like, I want to make sure my wife feels loved in this way. So you want your wife to feel loved, but you also want her to become more holy. Mm-hmm. And that is a thing that there's I think it's Sacred Marriage, Gary Thomas wrote, and he says marriage is not about making us more happy, but to make us more holy. And what you were saying, that's why I kind of thought about this, is that my wife, and if my wife's happy, or if we're working on this and we're talking and these different things, there will be more joy in my marriage, not necessarily because I'm just allowing her to do whatever she wants, but because we're working together and we're solving this problem together, and we're not attacking each other, but we're working together.
Yeah, it's good, man.
Yeah, I like it. Oh, is it wrong that I want my wife to call me husband and my kids to call me papa? Hello, papa, or father.
What?
Yeah,
you will call me father from now on, but in an English accent, father.
Yeah,
is that English? I don't know.
You could. I mean, you're the dad.
But I like Papa.
They should submit to you in your leadership.
Hey,
Anyway, we got to wrap up, guys.
that does set the tone for a crazy household, and that could be fun.
But I would like people to come over and my kids just to do it. Father, may we go to the store?
Yes,
Have your wife hand you your shoes.
Here you go, husband.
Here you are,
I
husband.
will no longer respond unless you say these things in these certain ways.
Okay, listen. Why don't we commit to trying to have some kind of a hilarious dinner party, not amongst ourselves, but where we do that to some of our friends. I need to have someone come over to my house and have my wife be handing me things, calling me husband, and my kids. Well, my kids don't even live in town, but
Right.
And I call her woman. Hey, woman.
Hey, woman.
and be as casual as possible, just to sort of see if you can get a reaction out of
Like,
them.
I don't think I could do that without
Bring me
smiling.
bring me my food.
I couldn't be serious.
Yes,
and say those
husband.
things.
Oh, can you
Hey,
imagine?
papa.
And your friends would be like, "Whoa."
What the where did I walk into? We're very legalistic.
All right. Well, to wrap up this, we'll come back. We'll come back to this discussion about your family calling you papa and husband.
What's better, papa or father?
I
don't know. Anyway, all right, we're done.
We'll have to wrap it up. But
Wrap it
any
up.
final thoughts?
No, you?
I mean, listen, just daily decision, man. Contribute. What
Commitment.
Commitment
for
thank you.
for Alan.
Hey,
Work
And I like
sacrifice.
gifts. I like gifts. If anybody wants to
and
buy
there are people who are not married and they're not in a relationship, but that's okay. Commit to Christ. Commit your walk. Commit to your work. Commit to your friends. You can always. How funny is that? Basically, in summary, love your neighbor as yourself. That includes just being outwardly focused. Love others. Be outward focused.
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that if everybody would world peace would be achieved if everyone had decided to do that.
I think we're close to world peace right now. Oh wait,
No, it's
we're not.
World War III, but
I
yeah,
know.
it's fine. It's fine.
Yeah, you just said World War III earlier.
Yeah.
But now we're at world
No,
peace.
I just watched
Hey.
the news. It was all chaos. Was breaking out.
Hey, peace does result for a short period of time after war, and but then there's another war until Christ returns. So here we
Yep,
are.
love it. All right, that's it.
Be blessed,
Till
you
next
guys.
time.
God's got it all. God's got it all. Don't be so worried about stuff.
All right.
Eric